Hello, welcome back to more Project Fear videos where the team and I discuss the episodes in order. So Lucy and Abby join me today. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
So you might know them from my team or from previous videos, but yeah, we're just here to give our opinion on the episodes. Abby, I've got you here in particular because you have been to Oxford Castle and Prison very recently, haven't you?
Yeah, so I was watching the episode on Thursday on Halloween, and when it said Oxford Castle, I was like, oh, that's so weird. I was there
Yeah.
last weekend, and I mentioned it obviously to you when we were out on Saturday, and I thought, you said, let's get you on then. We'll talk.
Yeah, because what I'm going to do in these episodes, the very basic idea is to talk about the location itself, to talk about the methods, the investigating, and to talk about like evidence. So in kind of sections. There's a lot of history to this place, isn't there? We're obviously from the UK, so you have been, I haven't. Lucy, have you been to Oxford Castle at all?
No.
Now, I sent you a link earlier, like Most Haunted have done it, which is the big UK show. Have you watched any of that video at all? No.
I
Well,
couldn't find it.
it was pretty good, wasn't it, Abby? It had quite a lot of noises in it for a start.
Yeah, it was. It's quite active.
Yeah, there's a specific reason though, is because it sounds like it's coming from here now.
Yeah.
From the corridor, not from the room where you were.
Please, can you copy me again? Let's make some music together. So Thomas, sorry, you think he was a warder?
At least we have 2 investigations, and there are more I'm going to look at by the time we get to next week's episode. Because I want to see what everything that is, in a pool of what normally happens, so we can kind of assess better what Project Fear got on the night. But we know that things happen differently each night that you go somewhere, don't we? Yeah, basically we know it's a really old place, like 1,000 years old, apparently, built in like 1071, medieval fortification. We know there's that big mound outside, what they were stood on. There's a big celery crypt at the bottom. So it's a pretty cool place. I mean, I think we'd love to investigate a castle, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So Oxford Castle became a former prison, and it was right up to the 90s. Yeah, that's good. You've got 2 in 1 because we've always spoke about wanting to do prisons before.
Yeah.
So what's your view on the location? A good place to investigate? Or?
I think it was probably the best to kick off an England tour because, like you say, you've got the prison part of it, the castle part of it, and it's so old. I think, it's just probably one of the best places to do, really. And it looks quite big, and you've got all those different layers of history as well. So, like, people being killed there, imprisoned, royalty living there. Did they say something like Matilda or something? The daughter
They did mention
of
that, yeah.
one of the kings, and he died and he didn't leave a will. So it was all sort of up in the air as to who was going to get the throne and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So if anywhere's going to be haunted, it's going to be there, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's the castle mound, which is that bit we spoke about. Originally supported a wooden keep on top, and then they replaced it with stone. That's panorama they can look out upon. St George's Tower, one of the most recognisable ancient parts, was it may even predate the main castle. It also houses a small chapel dedicated to St George and the crypt below. There's several buildings that formed part of the prison from the 18th and 19th centuries, made of limestone. So do we have this paranormal link of limestone is like stone tape theory, which we've touched on in the past? So yeah, the fact is that it's had executions, it's had imprisonment, which gives strong emotional factors into whether, unfinished business and dying in a horrible way, whether, what do you feel about that? What's both your views? We'll ask Lucy first. What are your views on if you die in a terrible way, you're more likely to come back as a ghost?
I think there is something to that, because I think if you've got like unfinished business and it was very quick, maybe there's a theory that you don't know what's happened, so you're stuck here until you figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abby, do you have any sway on it?
Yeah, similarly to sort of Lucy, and people that die suddenly as well, or people that die young, don't seem to know that they're dead, sort of thing.
Yeah.
We've seen that before.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And back to the both castle and prison, it's like the ideal location for that, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Now, I'm thinking about the location in terms of where it is in town, because it's very central, isn't it?
Central, really central.
Is
And
it?
there's like a bus station,
Yeah.
and all the buses come out past the castle.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got a lot of foot traffic through the day up and down the main road, and it really is just offset from the main road. You can see people walking about from the roadside.
I was wondering about that with the noises and stuff. I was trying to.
I was really hypercritical about the
Yes. Yeah.
Because there was that moment when they got sounded like two Saturday Night Lasses having a talk in one part of it, and I just thought, that's town, isn't it?
Yeah.
It
well be.
But to twin it with the Most Haunted one, where even skeptic Kieran O'Keefe was saying, even though we are in the centre of town, you can't hear a thing. That's what they put forward.
Yeah, how thick those walls are, and they're made of stone. So I try and think of, like, in my house, our walls are about 1 metre thick of stone, and we don't hear what's outside.
Yeah.
You know, like, if I was to hear one of those noises upstairs in one of the middle rooms, I would be very freaked out because you wouldn't hear it, really. And so that castle will have much thicker walls than here. So, although it is next to the road, I do wonder, because it did sound quite close to the camera as well, one of those noises that they got.
Yeah.
It did pick up quite clearly, didn't it?
Yeah.
It also mentions that it's near the train station as well, in my notes. But yeah, it's just so... Tell us about your visit. Tell us about the building.
Well, we went sort of through the daytime, so we went more as tourists than anything else. Yeah, it's a very interesting building, a lot of interesting history. I read, obviously, a lot of the placards on the wall and stuff as we were walking round. Yeah, it didn't feel... I know it was daytime, but it didn't feel like it had a bit of an atmosphere or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say I have at least a little bit of a sense of anything eerie. It definitely didn't feel like that. It felt like quite a welcoming place, quite a nice castle, nice surroundings, picturesque.
Yeah. So did you go up onto the roof like Dakota did to get that high up? Yeah, you did. And obviously you went down in the crypt.
Yeah.
So...
pretty sure the whole thing that you can access through the day, you know, if you pay to get in, is exactly the same as access as they got in the evening when they did their visit.
So they do ghost tours, obviously. And there's no reason it's not haunted. But like I said, I'd like to watch a few more investigations around the place. But yeah, I mean, like you say, Lucy, a castle is a great place to start. Now, the screams are heard and poltergeist activity seems to be and the monk. The monk is like the main focus, and apparently it used to be a monastery, or so there's a link like that. So that does make sense.
Because there's always a monk, isn't there, in these places that people see. So I was thinking, would there have been monks there at any point? So that's good to know that there was. Yeah.
There's also the reenact a woman, might have been the Matilda thing, but they put on this thing where a woman is in handcuffs, and she was a real lady who was actually still allowed, even though she was a prisoner, to put on tea parties. And she had guests come, and she just was shackled as she was pouring the tea. That's weird, isn't it? I don't know why. So yeah, cell blocks, footsteps, doors banging, the feeling of being watched. How airy and breezy was it, do you think, Abby, for doors to shut?
Not particularly.
Really?
Obviously there was fair foot traffic through there, but it's quite a closed off space in the most part. Yeah, within, because it's almost like a museum now. I wouldn't say it was particularly warm and cosy or anything, but
no,
it definitely is possible that there could have been drafts through there. I mean, it's an old building, isn't it? So
yeah. And what about if you were to sleep there? You know, let's say we investigated and it was night time when they do the vigils next week. What's the sort of fear factor? Do you think awful, you wouldn't want to, or manageable? What's your view?
Manageable.
Yeah, not actually that bad.
Not actually. I wouldn't feel comfortable sleeping most places alone, but it didn't have that sort of vibe to me. Maybe the crypts might be probably the scariest part of it.
Yeah. Looks quite cool down there.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, because we've got to try to get an idea of obviously they're a ghost TV thing, and now they're in England. Us as a team have some insight into what it's like to investigate in England, and I'm already waiting to have suspicion on if they're TVing it up. What's your views? Are you solidly on their side and they would never do such a thing? What's Abigail? Tell what you think.
There definitely is potential sort of hype things up a little bit. Even in this episode, I've been very critical of sort of like things they were getting on the SB7 and things like that. Yeah, there's because they're locations that maybe they won't all be locations that we've been to or anything, but
No.
because it's sort of on your home turf, you're definitely going to have, you're going to be more considering, oh, well, did that really happen, or are they sort of overrating
Playing it up. Yeah. Lucy, what's your vibe on the team?
I think that when they're actually filming and recording everything, I think it's all completely genuine. I think the only time it gets hyped up is during the edit, because I think of the way that we investigate and the way we do our videos is we just put everything in exact chronological order of how it happened. And if we really thought about it and we were really good at editing like they are, we would add in pauses to build suspension, and then I think everything's genuine. I think to be on YouTube and to be a big channel doing this on YouTube, you've got to compete with clickbait thumbnails, and you know what I mean? So I think there is an element of that, but I don't blame them at all for doing it, especially having to transfer to YouTube after being on TV. But yeah, I think like with one of the bits of evidence that they got, the whisper in the crypt when Dakota was looking for the duck, he heard it and he knew he heard it, but then he said it could have been my coat, which I thought most people don't put that kind of stuff in the edit. So I, of all of the teams that we watch, I think they're the most genuine, definitely.
I definitely agree with that. I think they are the most genuine, yes. And I don't blame them for making a good episode.
Yeah.
I would if I knew how to do it. Like you say, we just plonk it, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Yeah. Make your own mind up. We're not even trying for an audience. We won't know how. It's just like, oh, this happened. Yeah, so, fair play to them. I want them to have all the success that's possible, and I really don't want them to start putting in nonsense, faking evidence, saying it, knowing it was your coat, but then saying, oh, I can't say that on the edit, I'll just play it off as, what was that, I've got a note here that's saying when they put him in the stocks, they got some sort of banging noise, tapping started to start, and I just thought immediately, that just sounds like heating. It's something that my house does. When I turn on the heating, it goes tap, 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 as it like warms up.
Do they have heating in castles? Because that
they do now. Because it's Abby, surely it's got like some sort of warm pipes and water running through the building.
It's a good question. They've obviously had hot water and stuff installed.
Yeah.
With it.
In fact,
honestly, I didn't pay that much attention
to
the heating system.
No. Fair enough. I just remembered that Kieran O'Keefe on the Most Haunted episode said that's a long hot wall, that. And they're all like, what? Is it because there's a white hot water pipe running through the building? So they might not have radiators, but it has hot flow through it everywhere,
I thought that noise, I rewound that so many times.
All right.
I thought it was, when you unlock the stocks, it's got like a chain.
Yeah.
I thought it sounded like it could have been that swinging, but it wasn't moving at all. And then my next thought, like theirs was water, like a drain pipe dripping. It sounded like it could be that hitting the glass window. So yeah, if there's heating pipes there, definitely that could have been it. If it was like ticking over and every so often it'll crank up and make some noise, it could have been that.
Right, so let's take a look at the stocks bit of footage.
It's not raining out.
No.
I don't know. It's so constant though.
Right, so he says there it's so constant, so which makes me think...
Even they're debunking it, aren't they?
Yeah, they are having a go, to be fair. And they're not saying it's a ghost, it's just like... But that is weird, isn't it? At the time, you'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, it still sounds to me like heating a bit, in the way that I know it from my own house,
Yeah, and he does go towards the wall, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So maybe his brain's thinking the window, but it was actually pipes with like on the wall. Yeah,
who knows? And he says like, can you do that noise again? And I've seen a lot of people sort of say, if it was a ghost trying to get in touch, it could, so why doesn't it? When we get a noise and we always say, can you do it again? You think, well, if they're trying to reach out and they've done it once, why would they not do it a second time?
Yeah, I think when we don't get anything after asking the second time, we then go to think, is it because they've used all their energy doing it that first time, and so they can't do it for a little while after? Or are we just making excuses?
Yeah, are we filling in the blanks?
Yeah.
Abby, do you have a view on spirits and their energy? I know you've not been investigating a long time, but when you picture it, what do you feel? Abby, do you have any idea yourself about spiritual energy and how it's used?
I definitely think they draw the energy, or they seem to draw the energy from the people in the room.
Yeah.
The people that they're trying to communicate, whether they're knowingly trying to communicate or not.
So yeah, the humans give off energy, but we also suspect it's a theory that they drain electrical energy, isn't it? I always think of it as static electricity. That makes more sense, that I can feel the static and it's an energy of some sort, and I don't know, that's the closest I get to it. So then they hear seemingly a moan from upstairs.
This isn't good for us.
What was that? That was a little moan.
It literally sounded like a girl. 1 second. That came from up here.
What was that?
So there was the moan. That does sound like a person, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that was a good one. It just seemed to be from upstairs where they're going. Do you have a clue where they were in there, Abby?
No, I really don't.
And then there's some sort of crash noise comes up as well. Do you remember the unexplained crash or dragging sound? So apparently they also do a dark tourism thing, which is an immersive tourism experience designed around this Mary Blandy. That's the woman who gets locked up. So Lucy, you've got a theory on that?
Yeah, so I would think that there would be an increase in paranormal activity during a reenactment or maybe just afterwards, because of all the things that's gonna rile the spirits up or pique their interest, I would think it would be viewing something that actually happened to them happening now. So
Yeah.
when other shows that I watch do reenactments for like B-roll and stuff, I do think you should have filmed that that should be part of your experiment, because surely that's gonna create some stuff happening.
Yeah, they could have all dressed up as the period of the time and stayed in the cells for a bit. Maybe they do, but it's a good
would be
idea,
cool.
isn't it?
Yeah.
How did you end up here?
Who are you?
Can you come closer and talk to us?
No. No? I said no. What?
I thought I heard something behind me.
I did too.
And you know what I thought it said right there was over.
What did you hear?
I just thought I heard movement, like as if someone was stepping on the stairs.
So there's that crashing movement I put in my notes. Pretty unnerving. But they're doing the Spirit Box, the SB7, which we bought because of them. And I noticed in America there were very much American voices they had, but here they seem to be English, which is a double-edged sword because, of course, the radio stations are English. Mm-hmm. And yet the spirits are probably English. So what's your view on the SB7, Abby?
Yeah, I struggle with probably the only investigating that they do on Project Fear that I sort of am very, very not suspicious of, but like I sort of take it with a pinch of salt, because in this episode, especially when they're using the SB7, I this time have closed my eyes and listened to it, so I can't see the subtitles that they're putting on the screen, and I just can't hear what they can hear all the time. Like there, when it said no and over, I sort of heard the same thing, but there's another bit, it must be further on, and I can't remember what they thought it said, but I'm listening to it and I'm like, I thought they said something completely different. I don't know if they're sort of willing to hear things, or they're not sort of taking it in with a bit of an open mind of what exactly could be said, because I don't think it's that clear. But they definitely get more than we do.
We get nothing on the SB7 that we think's paranormal.
No.
Lucy, what's your view on their evidence versus ours on this?
I think they give it longer than we do. I think it's easy to get bored of waiting for an answer, and whilst you're doing it, you're also mindful that that's so loud that something else could be happening. You might be missing it. So I think we don't give as much time to it. If I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt, I'd say that it's probably much clearer in person than can ever be picked up by a microphone with all that static stuff going on. So you do kind of have to trust them. So it's a difficult one. I see what Abby says. I always close my eyes and don't look at what they're putting on the screen. And a lot of the time, I don't get the same thing. I do hold more weight to it when it's got a lot more syllables, because any radio can get through and say, no, yeah, you know, and you wouldn't really know whether it was a radio or a spirit. But if it, like the one that Abby mentioned, where it's over, I think they say that it's trying to say, I'm trying to get past, or something like that.
Was it,
yeah. So I hold more weight to longer ones, because there's not really, it doesn't sweep slow enough for you to pick up that many words on a radio station. So yeah, it's one of them again, which we always seem to get in the paranormal world, where it's up to interpretation, which can be really frustrating.
Well, let me do 2 minutes of this by showing you something about ours. If I power it on, and so it plays white noise because it's on one channel. The aerial's up because essentially it is a radio. And so you've got sweep buttons. If you press once, it goes, literally stops and stays where it is. But if I hold it down, it starts to sweep. Yeah. So this is on a really fast sweep rate. So you've got different speeds. 250. It's going slower and slower there, right?
That sounds like the speed they use.
Okay.
The slower one.
Forward. Okay, so so slowest is 300. I speed that on that. Volume it. So there you go. You heard something there, right? I stopped it, and I'm going to go back, and you can actually get.
And don't miss limited time deals on selected pieces.
So that's what they need to do. They need to stop it and go back.
And see if it's the same voice. And
yeah. Oh, I heard something there. I heard a deep man's voice.
Let's go, team!
It's advert. Him. It were him I heard. So that's the issue. The person who's got it in hand should have their finger on the stop button so that they can debunk immediately. Because yeah, you do get words on it. Of course you do. It's a radio.
Just gathered everything.
I just gathered everything.
Yes!
What?
I just gathered everything.
But yeah, it seemed to be all starts of sentences. That was the weird thing I noticed. A lot of the time it doesn't seem to be called apples or something, or it like makes sense, you know, can't get past or whatever. That's what I find quite interesting, how it does that. We'll take a look at the bit where we think they hear female voices.
That's talking.
voices.
That's talking.
Here.
Planted across.
Something to cross?
I thought it's like I'm trying to get across.
Oh my gosh! I'm trying to get across.
Yes.
Is it like you're trying to physically get across, or you are trying to get across a story or a message?
I'm trying.
There we heard the spirit box things, which to me sound like radio. How about yourself?
I think paranormal.
Do you? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Because when the female says, I'm trying to get across, and then I've gathered everything, that to me, that's the same voice. And they're all like multiple words. When you can hear the sweeping, it's so much quicker. So I would vote paranormal on that one.
I hope so, Lucy. I really hope that we can get something like that out of this one day.
Yeah.
And then we get the female voices seemingly coming from somewhere, but any skepticism on that, like it's from in town, or?
My first thought was a fox, and then because obviously they sound like women screaming or street noise. So then when Dakota sees the fox later, I thought, oh yeah, I couldn't possibly say paranormal really for that one.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Abby?
I'm a bit the same as you. I didn't actually think about the fox, to be fair, but I did think it sort of sounded far too real. You know, it did sound like sort of a woman out on a night out or something. Screaming their head off in the street. Because it happens, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not wanting to be suspicious, and I don't think they're up to anything. I think we would be, a lot of this would be like, whereas they seem to be like, oh my God, you know. And I worry that that's the television bit.
I think they're maybe used to going to really, really remote locations.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're hearing voices is quite crazy.
But surely they'd know. They'd be like, well, obviously that's people in town, isn't it?
Yeah. Although, saying that, they're in a completely new place. And again, you sort of don't really know. It takes you a while to adjust to what noise does come in through from outside and what doesn't. So, I mean, it did happen at an interesting time. But again, it's hard, isn't it? And the thing is, the realer the evidence is, the more suspicious, even when it happens to us. We're like, oh no, that's too realistic, it can't be. And so we dismiss it because it's too good of evidence. So we're just stuck in this, like, yeah, it's difficult to fathom.
On your point, Lucy, if we went to America and we're doing like an old abandoned farm place like they were, and we heard coyotes, we'd be like, what the hell is that? We don't have coyotes, so we wouldn't know what it was sounding like, would we?
We'd be like, oh my god, a demon.
Yeah. But yeah, so they walk around there, and the PS device that he has, another word bank, we get please, meet, shadows, violent, shadow, and then above. Abby, were you swayed by those?
Not particularly. They seemed a little bit random.
Yeah.
A little bit random. Interesting.
Yeah. It's always interesting, but it's... I mean, this thing will probably still keep kicking out words, even if one of those was from a spirit, and it would still sound the same tone, wasn't it? Because that's how it's set.
They've definitely had better.
Oh, they have that. When they get if they got castle and prison, you'd be like, well, that's we spoke before with Lucy about they get the location details, doctor and stuff, and you're like, well, that's on the nose.
Yeah. I thought though I found that interesting because meet shadows happened when he was going through the crypt. So I thought, and then they said found yellow and above. I don't know which order it was in.
Above the
Yes.
So
that was
I thought
a bit more convincing.
Yeah, I thought if it turns out to be high up, then that's pretty cool. So I thought that was quite good. They have had better though, where it's like you say, it's been like really specific. But it sounded to me like a spirit had thought, oh, I'll help him, and gone and looked, and then come back and gave him some clues.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have found that. Not a chance. I'd
have given up. I'd have gone, I can't be bothered.
Yeah. The words through the PS box was first, heard, yes, gouge, 5, them, beware, warning, brrr, and then it went all weird, didn't it, and froze. So let's take a look at that bit.
Can you tell us if there's anybody else here with you?
What? What is happening?
It's glitching.
Dude, what?
So there it is. It goes all weird. Abby, what do you think is happening there?
That would freak me out. That would really freak me out. I mean, it's hard to say. I'd be inclined to say that's the most paranormal thing that happened. The PS device went wrong. Yeah, it was really interesting, to be fair, after its warning, and then sort of almost gave a warning alarm. It was creepy.
Beware, warning, and it went wrong.
Exactly the same, yeah. That would have scared me, because you expect to hear any words coming through the device, but for it to then start making that like loud, weird noise, I think paranormal on that as well. If they can affect the equipment to put a word out, then it makes sense that they can affect it in that way as well.
Yeah. It is weird how it malfunctions in that way. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at Dakota in the crypt alone, and he hears a whisper.
No way, dude. I don't want to go down there.
So we see Dakota get that whisper there. That is freaky. If I was alone in that crypt, that is not something I want to happen. How do you feel, Abs?
I can see why he tried to blame his code. It was that code, wasn't it? Yeah, I wouldn't like that at all. Interesting, because it sounded to me like they sort of said here.
I was going to say the exact same, yeah.
And because it was more like a word than just a sound, it sort of leads me towards paranormal.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to hear something auditory like that.
I'd love and hate it at the same time.
Yeah. It would freak me out. And the way they looked down that passage, you could almost see the proper fear in his face. Like, Jesus, do I have to? I mean, you have to make the program, but when you stood in a dark corridor like that and having to go deeper into somewhere, there's always that. Yeah, even I would get that. I'd be like, I'll do it, but I'm not enjoying this. So yeah, they have had some good bits of evidence, but I still think it was a fairly quiet episode to ones that it has been. And a lot of the paranormal TV series that I watch, the first one's the banger, the first one's the hit. Episode 1 gets them in, and so that makes me think perhaps they haven't, done anything to embellish it. So yeah, I do sort of believe it is as they got. But a pretty cool place though. It said Beast and Unholy on his PS device when he was down there. Yeah, I don't know. Just those devices, as we spoke about before, I think a lot of the words are chosen for their eerie quality. It's not like beautiful and smell the flowers, is it? Do you know what I mean?
No, that's
so when you get Beast and Unholy, it's like, well, yeah, of course it'll say that. I've got a bit in the crypt where there's a crash and then running.
It's where it kind of pushes, they back up and it pushes them into the crypt.
Gross.
What? Oh! Hello?
It's like pushing us into the crypt.
That sounded like it was on the stairs.
Yes.
It's the loudest noise we've heard.
It sounded like something slamming or...
Get back. What the f*** is that? Something just ran down the stairs. That sounded like something ran down the stairs.
We just got pushed into the crypt.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. There's a crash. We didn't hear the running though, did we? But evidently they did.
Yeah.
That's pretty horrible. And they did an Estes method. So they got Help and Yellow and Hangman Yet. I'm here, following, leave, laugh, alone, I see you, girl, get back here. That's quite a cross-section of words that, when a word comes up, they tend to chip in with an explanation of how to make it fit, rather than saying, can you say this, or, pushing for the Estes words to sort of do the work. But then when Dakota says, can you tell us how you died here, it says neck. That's one of those moments where it feels decent,
Yeah, because it had said hangman before that. Was that in the Estes method?
Yeah.
So it tallied up, so that was quite good.
Do you agree with me that they should probably record the Estes words that they're hearing so that we can also actually see what we think it said, rather than them just saying, it said, whatever. I'd like to hear what they hear, basically.
Yeah, but I think there is sometimes an element of... Because some people do Estes method where they just listen to white noise and say words that get put in their head, which we've had quite good success with, haven't we, when we tried it?
We have.
With Jill. So I don't really know with that. On one hand, yeah, it would be good to hear what they're hearing, but who's to say that in the moment you're not also physically manipulated by the spirits to try and get something into your head, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't hear the same, it wouldn't sound the same to someone else.
Yeah, I know when I've had the headphones on with you in Estes, there is a moment where I kind of pick out what I think it's trying to say, perhaps, more than what the sound it exactly said. Now, in our last video, Abby, we recorded the other night, when we were doing necrophonic to my microphone so that the edit would hear it, and we could hear it ourselves, when it was saying Chris, supposedly, it wasn't just saying Chris, it was like, so... But I thought that's why I tried to do it so that we could all hear it rather than in headphones, because then other people at home might be hearing words that we didn't take from the session. It might even been Becky from our team that said, I wish they'd record it and play it out so that we could all hear it.
Definitely would be to hear.
Yeah, but I do also agree with Lucy that there is something like a connection between, if it's all psychic based in a sense, personal to each other. Like, Abby, have you heard, when you've done Estes method, do you actually hear things or not? I can't remember your view.
Yes, I have heard things, but sort of only when it's really sort of explicit to me will I then say it out loud.
Yeah, because sometimes you do get clear,
You get
clear
very
stuff.
clear words. Anything that might be a bit more of a whisper or doesn't quite formulate a full word, I'll just ignore it.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot to ignore, isn't there? Like whether you're using the spirit box with all the you don't, what's that? And then even necrophonic is like a lot of noises that are half just nothings. Lucy, using necrophonic, it is still an app, and yet I do think it's the best thing to use. But where do you fall on that?
I think, in my experience, when I'm using necrophonic, I say a lot more words because there's a lot more to decipher through.
Yeah.
With the spirit box, it's a lot less. But yeah, with necrophonic, it's hard because you sometimes hear the same noises again and again. Like there's one where it's like a woman kind of moaning, kind of screaming, and you'll hear it over and over again. So then you start to think, is this just a pre-recorded thing on a loop? But then you'll get something that you've never heard on it before in between those moans. And you're like, oh. So I think it's definitely worth exploring. And it's the best one to use if you just want to do a 10-minute session, I think. Yeah. Whereas the spirit box would be better if you're willing to commit like 25 minutes to it. They're just very different. I think you can, I don't know, debunk them in different ways.
Why do you need to scan the SB7? Why can't you just put white noise on one channel and sit back?
Good question. Because surely, I think, really, when you look at what the explanation is for how the spirits communicate through it, and they say they use the sounds and the words to make their own words, that just sounds like a hell of a lot of effort. Then why can't they just speak over it? How are they in the radio waves with a jigsaw putting things together? I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
I watched something the other day. There's a channel on YouTube, long running, called Smosh, and they're not ghost hunters, but they ghost hunted with an SB7 in their studios where they record for Halloween. And she just clicked it on one channel. She didn't scan at all. And I was like, she doesn't know how to use it, and no one knows how to use it to correct her. Do you know what I mean? So they were just walking around. They got the aerial up, and they're walking around this huge aircraft hangar, and of course eventually they got to a zone where the aerial picked up a little bit of radio, and they were like, I'm like, yeah, because that's where you get reception, like in the olden days when you used to have your TVs, like, can I get reception for my telly, And so I'm watching it with my sceptical scientific mind son, and he's like, oh, well, if you put that near a router, the white noise is going to go off. I said, well, let's get mine out. Oh, have you got one? I said, I got that exact one, Jake. We can do it and debunk it right now. And he says, well, what gets me is inside necrophonic or inside apps, he says all the information is in binary. Yeah. So how does a spirit know the binary code? Because I was saying, how does it know which word is on which frequency? No, it's more than that, Dad. How do they know the whole binary code? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then in order to get select an output. I think with the spirit box, if it's backwards, I believe it more. Can you scan backwards on it?
You can scan backwards, but all scanning backwards means is it's you go radio 1, white noise, radio 2, white noise, radio 3, or you go radio 3, white noise, radio 2.
Oh.
A radio station doesn't play backwards. How could it?
No, true. My brain was thinking it would play it backwards, and then it would be more compelling.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
so it makes no difference. Scanning it backwards doesn't mean anything. Abby, where do you think they're going to set the beds up? I mean, crypt, I suppose, is a fairly obvious one.
Tower.
The hill?
No, just up the tower, up the death stairs.
Oh, yes.
They'll have someone at the top of the death stairs, obviously, because...
Didn't they go to another building? Was that the prison? Is there some outbuildings where when Dakota were doing the duck hunt, the other three went?
Yeah, was it solitary confinement cell or something like
that? Yeah. Probably someone there, and definitely in a prison cell. They've got to, and maybe just somebody in the main bit of the building. Yeah.
What is there they're outside some sort of museum entrance looking place?
Yeah.
So is that all modern there?
It's quite modern in the entrance, but then obviously you sort of
go straight into it. Well, thank you both for joining me, and thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.